Alrighty. Well, let's go. Heavenly Father, we thank you for this gathering of men today. Lord, I thank you for those who are here and those who were not able to make it. Just ask that you be with all of us as we go into the weekend and help us finish this week off strong. Help us continue to fight the flesh, uh, leading us so that we may lead those in our families and our spirit influence. Father, speak to us today. Give us ears to hear and hearts to receive. Use me as a vessel so that you may pour into me, so that I may pour into the lives of these men. Thank you and love you in Jesus' name. Amen. All right. So, storms. It yesterday, well, the last couple of days, it's been off and on. It's been kind of. I mean, it's been very sunny here the last couple of days, but a couple times throughout the day, you get some dark, what look to be storm clouds roll in, and the sun just disappears. Um, but there have been no storms that have come along with it. Just clouds. Um, but we are getting into the seasons. Hey, Rodney, what's up? We just started. Um, we are getting into the seasons where, the next, what, 2 months, 1 month, 2 months that storms will be starting. Um, but yesterday I was sitting on the porch and the wind, I don't know what it was like up there in eastern Missouri, since literally everybody on, okay, no, Robert's down south, the rest of you are from out east. But it was extremely windy here yesterday. Like trash, leaves, dust, dirt was blowing everywhere. And I was sitting on the porch reading, and then when I stopped reading, I was just looking, and the scripture hit my mind of the wind blows where it wishes, and you hear the sound of it, but you don't know where it comes from. You don't know where it's going. Um, Usually, when there's a wind, unless it's a storm, it's usually relatively calm. It blows, from south to north or north to south or east to west, whatever. But a lot of leaves down here were being blown around, and I noticed just as much wind was coming from the south, there was wind also coming from the north. And so, even though we can't see the wind, we can see its effect. It was just chaotic with all these leaves going all different directions. Um, and oftentimes in life, we see we can't necessarily see the wind. We don't see where it's coming from, where it's going, but we can see its effect. Um, which took me into scriptures about some storms. So we're gonna check into those and see what we can learn from them. So, starting in Mark chapter 4, verse 36. On that day, when evening came, he, being Jesus, said to them, "Let us go over to the other side." Leaving the crowd, they took they took him along with them in the boat, just as he was, and other boats were with him. And there arose a fierce gale of wind, and the waves were breaking over the boat, so much that the boat was already filling up. Jesus himself was in the stern, asleep on the cushion. And they woke him and said, "Teacher, do you not care that we are perishing?" And he got up and rebuked the wind, and said to the sea, "Hush, be still." And the wind died down, and it became perfectly calm. He said to them, "Why are you afraid? Do you still have no faith?" They became very much afraid, and said to one another, "Who is this then, that even the wind and the sea obey him?" Uh, all right. I'll have another one here in a minute, but that works for now. Uh, a couple of different things here is they have already witnessed miracles. The disciples have already witnessed miracles. They've already seen healings. They've already walked with Jesus, learned some of his teachings. But he was with them in the boat. Um, and they were still afraid. Could it be because he was asleep? If he was awake, would they have still have been afraid? I don't know. Maybe thinking that he was asleep, he was unaware of what was going on around him. But their faith wavered when they saw what was going on around them. Again, the wind, a fierce gale wind, which I did a teaching a couple years ago. It was the first devotional I wrote, and it was whenever Jesus and the disciples were when Jesus was walking on the water and he called Peter out. But this has the same thing because the Sea of Galilee is pretty much the only sea they were really ever on for the most part. But for the waves to get kicked up on that because it's almost like in a valley, it has to be a certain time of year uh, for the winds to come down on the Sea of Galilee. It has to come down through the mountains from the north uh, at a certain time of year. So the recipe for the storm, for lack of a better term, has to be perfect. Otherwise, the wind is not going to be kicking up. Well, this fierce gale of wind comes at the perfect time, and they freak out, wake up Jesus, and he tells the waves to hush, be still, or as the song is, peace, be still. Um, and it does what he says. He rebukes the wind with those words, and it became perfectly calm. So this perfect recipe for disaster becomes perfectly calm when Jesus speaks. We couldn't see where the wind was coming from, just as it says in John 3:8. We couldn't see where the wind was coming from or where it was going, but we could see uh, the uh, we could see what was happening because of it. Let's go on over to Matthew chapter 7, verse 24. I'm really gonna start having little tabs where I gotta go flip and tape. All right. All right. So keep in mind again, Jesus was with them on the boat. He was the one who calmed the waves and made it perfectly still. Okay. Matthew 7:24. Therefore, everyone who has ears, these words of mine, and acts on them. What? Okay, everyone who hears, not has ears. Everyone who hears these words of mine and acts on them may be compared to a wise man who built his house on the rock. The rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against the house, and yet it did not fall, for it had been founded on the rock. Everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act on them will be like a foolish man who built his house on the sand. And the rain fell, and the floods came, and the winds blew and slammed against that house, and it fell, and great was its fall. Um, in these two parables, even when Jesus' name isn't mentioned, or I guess one of them wasn't a parable necessarily, but in these two stories, um, Jesus was present in both of them, even though his name wasn't mentioned. Jesus was with them in the boat, and he was the rock upon which the foundation of the house was built. Um, if he was not in the boat, I feel the disciples could have prayed and boom, everything would have been taken care of. But they were too shaken by the circumstances around them. But if keeping in mind of everything they had seen in the past that Jesus had done, everything that God had done for their people in the past, uh, I think their reaction would have been a little bit different. Oftentimes in life circumstances, we freak out because even though Jesus is with us in the boat, even though we say our rock is built on on him. Our foundation is built on him. Oftentimes, when the wind blows and we don't know where it's going to or where it's coming from, we still freak out because we can't see it. We can only see what's going on around us. Same thing with Jesus. We may not be able to, and the disciples could physically see Jesus in the boat, but in our circumstances, in our time of life, we don't have the luxury of seeing Jesus physically face to face currently. But he's just like the wind. We don't see where he is. We don't know where he's taking us, but he is there. Just like the wind that's kicking up the storms, just like the wind that was kicking up those leaves out there. And even though something that seemed calm, I mean, even though the wind was strong, it there's still a calmness with the wind, but everything looked chaotic because of the effect that the wind was having. When the wind has an effect, stirring up our lives, stirring up chaos, Jesus is there just like the wind. We may not be able to see him. We may not be able to see what he is doing, but he's doing what he purposes. The wind that I saw yesterday, though it looked chaotic and completely unorganized, the leaves were just blowing from all different directions. We look at tornadoes, we look at hurricanes, we look at earthquakes, we look at financial crises, we look at crises of faith, we look at relationship issues, be it marriage or friendships or family, whatever. We see the chaos. But the same God who told the waves, hush, be still, the same God whose foundation, the rock that this house was built upon, is the same God that brought forth the wind onto the Sea of Galilee, causing the storm. He is the same one who brought the wind and the rain and the floods against both of these houses. He is the one who tells the wind to blow this way or that way, and how strong to be. If he does all these things and controls all of these chaotic circumstances, regardless if there's chaos, there's control in the chaos, because he is a God of order. He took chaotic creation, the earth where it was where it was dark and formless and void, and he brought chaos in, or he brought order to chaos. Even in these storms that we face, be it an actual physical storm with tornadoes or whatever, or just storms, the circumstances of life, we have to, one, make sure that our house is built upon him, built upon the rock. That way, when these storms come, when these floods come, and liken it to this, storms come, and what floods us? Whenever life circumstances hit us, whatever they may be, we have a flood of emotions that hit us. But in all of this, he's not a God of chaos. He is a God of order. So regardless of how chaotic the storms look, how strong the wind is blowing, how many different directions the leaves are blowing, there is still order to that chaos, because he and he alone is there telling the wind to blow this way or blow that way, or peace, be still. He can calm the storms because he controls the storms. If he's controlling the storms, then there's not at one point that whatever that storm is, we shouldn't be at peace, knowing that he is sovereign over all of it, and that he is controlling the wind that's causing those what seem to be chaotic situations. And he's also the one who tells them to stop. When the wind is blowing, the chaos is kicking, and we can't see it. We can't see him, but he's controlling it all. He's keeping it all under control so that it doesn't overtake us. Build your houses on the rock. Build your houses being firm in the faith. What faith? That Christ is King. He's Lord. He's sovereign over all. And no matter what we come up against and what we face, though emotions flood may flood us and seemingly overtake us. He's in the background, just like the wind, but he's saying, "Peace, be still." So, what storms are we facing? Uh, do we see no change happening? Oh, ye of little faith! I'm pointing a finger. I'm looking at me too. Oh, ye of little faith! Uh, we uh, we have to have faith. We can't see where the wind is blowing or what it's doing, but we also can't see what Jesus is doing. But we know that He is active and doing something. So, again, preaching to myself, have faith, my brothers. That's that.
Amen. I hear you, man.
Cheers.
It's hard, though, when the problems and trials come
Mm-hmm.
to see where your foundation is.
Yep.
As the wind and the waves crash against your house, you can't see the foundation anymore. It's covered, right? And you're like, oh man, all this stuff is happening to me. Lord, when are you going to save me? And it's like the same reaction every time.
Yep. Same reaction every time.
For me.
Me too. Me too. And all it takes is just us realizing that that storm that's coming up against us, He is the one causing it to come against us. We look to Job and we see that Satan had to ask permission to test Job or anybody else. He had to ask permission. So everything good or bad that happens, God's sovereign hand is over, allowing those storms to come. And we see so many times that in the storms, He is allowing, or He's using the storms for our betterment, to bring about strength, renewed faith, and just all kinds of things. And again, Romans 8:28 causes all things to work together for good to those who love and are called according to His purpose. So He's taking those storms, and the Greek word is synergio, something like that, for the word causes. So in causing these things, He's causing the bad, what look like harmful, to work together with the good in unison, kind of like when you see on a movie where, okay, like for instance, we'll look at the Suicide Squad. They bring in the villains to be the good guys. God is using what brings about the bad to bring about good, and only He can govern that. And since He is the only one who can govern that, that should give us a peace that He is doing something that nobody else in created existence can do. But yeah, it's a lot easier to remember when we're not going through something at that point in time.
Yeah, I think we have to be careful as well, because we, being human, a lot of times we cause our own storms. Like we're everything is raging around us and we're like, God, where are you? What is going on? How come I can't afford my truck payment? How come I can't afford my... He's like, I didn't ask you to go buy a 2024 Ford F450 and have a $750 truck payment when you have all these other bills in your life. I didn't ask, and He's going to be with you in that storm. But we've caused the storm to rage around us. I mean, we brought it upon ourselves a lot of times. It doesn't mean that He isn't going to be there to lift you up, but He might be saying, yeah, I want you to be right in the middle of this storm and see that you didn't lean on me and you made the wrong decisions. I'm going to be there to help lift you up, and I'm going to carry you, and I'm going to be with you in the storm. I'm going to help you see the other side. And then hopefully the next time you're going to look to me and not to your own ways, because my ways are not like your ways, you know.
Yep. Exactly. Exactly. I'm looking for it just to make sure I quote it right, but I can't.
While you're
Yeah.
looking for that, while you were looking for that, I was thinking of this when you're talking about the storms in Proverbs 10:25. It says, "When the storms of life come, the wicked are rolled away, but the godly have a lasting foundation." And when Solomon writes, he doesn't write if the storms come. He says when the storms of life come. So they're going to come.
Oh yeah.
Yep. I was. Trust the Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and in all your ways acknowledge Him, and He will make your path straight. Or, okay, my bad. I cut some of it out. Yeah, trust the Lord with all your heart, and do not lean on your own understanding. Just like that $750 car payment, that's leaning on our understanding. But in all your ways, acknowledge Him. Pray, seek His guidance. He will make your path straight. Giving you, He may not speak in your ear audibly and be like, "Hey, don't do it," but He's still going to give us guidance. Through promptings of the Spirit, through promptings of the Word, through witnesses around us. I'm a very firm believer, though I lack the faith sometimes to act on whenever I hear the faith of 2 or 3 witnesses speaking into something. But whenever we hear it, whenever it's a sure thing, we have to be able to have faith to act either against what we were going to do or act and do what we were going to do. So, yeah. So
It made me think, Jamie, when you said that about, our computers, you back up your computer because it's not if your computer is going to fail someday, it's when your computer is going to fail. Your hard drive or whatever is going to go out, and you're going to lose everything if you have it prepared, because it's not, is that might happen someday. No, it's going to happen someday. It's just whether or not you're going to be prepared for it, if it's going to happen.
I'm fully dependent on the cloud.
Right. We didn't used to have the cloud.
Yeah. Hopefully the cloud doesn't crash.
Yeah, you're right.
I'll be in ruins.
Robert, I love seeing you on there with your 2 young men there at your side.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, so I was telling Eric right before we started the video and everything that just dropped off my wife. She's going with a team down to New Orleans for Mardi Gras. Normally Dustin would go, but actually his wife is going also. So anyway, yeah, this is they rolled out about 5:15, and the donut shop opens at 5, and Team Missouri calls at 5:30, and I'm like, I just hope these guys aren't in the middle of a challenge, because then we're eating donuts and drinking chocolate milk right in front of them.
I love it. I love it.
No, but I'm sure I'll gain weight from it anyway. Because usually, if I look at something sweet, the weight just starts pouring on. I don't have to actively eat it.
Nice. There you go. Well, on the going through storms and stuff part, I a long time ago had a pastor that was like, when you're in those struggles, when you're in those hard times, let it drive you to the Word, let it drive you to your knees, and then conversely, same pastor, I think, during a sermon and preached about, when Jesus and the disciples were in the boat, Jesus is asleep and everything, is like, what were they doing? Well, Jesus had said, let's get in the boat and go across the lake. He's like, how quickly would that storm have got them across the lake if they had just held on? But instead, Lord, get us out of this situation. Now they have to row.
Yep.
But like, you're going to get where you're supposed to be. But did you want to get there now, or did you want to have to row your way there? And just, how much more growth do we experience when we pull in close to the Lord during a hard time versus everything is nice and easy and like, man, I have to now I have to set reminders to read my Bible or whatever because things have been so cozy. But when it's a hard time, like this is second nature. Lord, help me again. 5 minutes later, Lord, I need you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you gave me a great idea for devotions. I wrote it down.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah, how neat would it have been if the apostles could have hanged 10 all the way to the shore?
Said,
Talk about a
we know
wild
we're going to
ride,
be
right?
fine. Yeah, we know we're going to be fine because Jesus is with us. Let's just ride out the
Right.
storm.
That's right.
Yeah. And I mean, thinking of the storm that they were experiencing then, uh, he said, "Hush, be still," and it instantly was calm. Whenever on the account where Jesus walked on the water, and he called Peter onto the water, um, he calmed the storm, and then they were immediately at shore. So that, all it takes is him speaking into it to
It's
bring the
funny
peace.
because they were freaking out. They thought they're going to die, and then he calmed the storm, and then it basically says they're freaking out. Like, who is this? What's going on?
Right.
Yeah.
Now they're freaked out the other way. It's like, what?
Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
afraid. They were afraid both times. Now they're afraid. Like, what's going on?
Yeah.
Right.
I think that fear was kind of like the reverence that we
Yes.
should have for God is, seeing His great and mighty works and fear what He can do. Not always necessarily what He can do to us, but what He is able to do, and knowing that, I mean, He's just so far above us. It should bring that fear of awe.
I'm gonna need to go, but I want to try to tell a
Yeah.
story really quick if I can before I do, because it really encouraged me this week. I was listening to I think it was the Hard Men's podcast, and they were interviewing the people from Sundries Indigo Sundry Soap, I think is the name of it. Anyway, I tried some of their soap and I'm gonna buy some more, but so this wasn't necessarily a commercial for them. But anyway, um he asked if they would be willing to be vulnerable and share something that happened in their life. And I was like, well, and so she said that she was diagnosed with lupus, and they told her that she had 5 years to live. And they said, we're going to give you this medication, but over time you're going to go deaf and you're going to go blind, and then we can give you some other medication, and then maybe we can extend your life for 18 more months. But basically told her it's going to be horrible. And in the middle of this, so she starts taking this medication, and then her son had they didn't know that he had a birth defect, but he had a birth defect and a blood vessel in his brain burst. And so he goes in the hospital. He only had like a 10% chance to live. And she's at the hospital, and because of the medications, she couldn't properly be there for her son because all the adverse effects. So she just stops taking it cold turkey. I'm not taking this medicine. I can't be here for my son. Son totally recovers 100%. He had to learn his ABCs, walk, talk, all this stuff again. But she said he's like, fine, no problems. Which was the first God thing and miracle, because here you are in the middle of a storm, and then boom, you get hit with this other thing that's just like, you think that you're down and out and you're drowning, and then you find this out about one of your children. So she goes back to the doctor, and they said they need to do some more testing or whatever, and her health just kept declining. And she went there and she said, I quit taking the medicine. And they said, you can't quit taking the medicine. And she said, well, I haven't taken it for like 3 months. And they said, you can't do that. So anyway, they tested her, and they called her in 2 days and said, you need to come back. So they came back. They said, we got some problems. And so she goes back, and they said, we need to run more tests. There's something wrong with your results. And so they run the test again. And of course, she does not have lupus. And she has no, I think they call it RA flags or something. She also has no flags, whatever that is, RAs. And so they call in the head doctor, and he says to her, he goes, this doesn't make any sense. And he said, we can't explain it, which she could. He goes, we can't explain it. He said, you just happen to be one of the lucky ones that got away. And she said, I thought, what? Like, what is this doctor saying to me? She said, I was going to be basically taking this medication, because she said, I was one of the lucky ones that got away, that you're not going to be able to prescribe all this medication to me that I was basically not even going to be able to hear people when I'm laying there on my deathbed because I'm deaf and all these things. And yet God healed me from all this, you know, and she's been fine ever since, you know. So I love hearing stories like that where God takes a crazy storm that some of us, you know, have been in some pretty rough times and got some pretty bad news. And it doesn't always go that way. That's not always God's will. But it was so encouraging to hear that in the middle of what happened, even with her son, God healed him. And through that, if that would not have happened, maybe she would have still been taking that medicine and she wouldn't be here anymore, you know? So you don't realize sometimes the storm that you're given and how you respond to that and how she ended up relying on God. And then here she is, God healed her and she doesn't have all those problems. So it was very encouraging to me hearing them tell that story. It was just so cool, you know. I loved it. So anyway, those are some major storms there. Those aren't truck payment storms.
Nope. Nope, not
You
at all.
know, that's where the rubber meets the road. So
Yep.
I love you, brothers.
Cool.
I appreciate you guys. It's great to see 5, 6 people on here, and well, actually, about 7 or 8 with the little men there. So
Oh, yeah, exactly.
yeah. All right. Y'all have a great weekend, and I don't know where you stand, but go Chiefs. All right.
See you, Rodney. Take care.
See you guys.
Mounds of two.
All right. You say you're heading out too?
Yep.
Okay. All righty. Have a good time. Appreciate it.
Have a great weekend. Love you guys.
Leaving us for your wife.
That's right.
Yep.
See you, Davey.
Then there were 2. There's
All right. Wait.
4. Oh, there were 4.
Oh my goodness.
See you later.
See ya.
Daddy, don't you want to get that magic on your phone?
Have a good one, man. Well, I guess if everybody, I mean, if everybody's planning on rolling, then I guess we can pray out and get out of here.
Yeah,
Sounds good.
let's
So,
roll. It's Friday.
dropping like flies. Yep. Yep. That being said, Chris, you look busy. You want to pray us out?
Yeah, sure. Let's go.
All right.
All right, let's see. Father in heaven, thank you for this gathering. Thank you for this gathering of men, young and old, that can come together and celebrate you. We ask that you be with us this weekend as we fight the flesh. Walk with us, guide our steps as we go into this weekend. We also ask that you plant a protective hedge around us and keep us safe from all the temptations and evils that are out there in the world. Know that during that storm, you are walking with us and that you are the one calming the storm. And if we have to get out our oars and row, we know that we're rowing with you. We ask this in your son's mighty name, Jesus. Amen.
All right, gentlemen. Love you guys. And I reckon we'll see you over on Polo and the text threads.
All right. Love you, brother.
Love you guys.
Love y'all. Take it easy.
Take it. Yes, we'll do. Twice if it's easy.
Yeah, there you go.
Now there were.
That's just,
For those of you who are still watching this, I'm looking for the record button. There we go. Take it easy.